Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Friday, June 5th, 2026, and today we're talking about how to use sawdust in the market garden, and if you even should, the big key to starting a farm, and it is Feedback Friday, so let's do it. All right, happy Friday, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and feeling well and that your weeks are rounding out nicely. I had one of the cooler days I've had in a while yesterday. I mean, temperature-wise, it was not cool even a little bit, but I spent the morning busting out our sweet potato planting finally, which is, I don't know, about 2 weeks behind normal as I changed up where I wanted to plant them kind of at the last minute. And then I got some lettuce in, which is important. I have to do that basically multiple times a week. And then I got the late field tomatoes in all before lunch. All of that felt really good, but that wasn't necessarily the cool part, though it did feel cool to finally have all that off the old plate. I did all of that as quickly and correctly, of course, as I could, so that Hannah and I could go up to a lecture by the Racing Louisville head coach and her assistant coach. Now, I promise I won't bore you with any of the details there, but just listening to practically anyone get nerdy about their craft is incredibly fun to me. Bonus that it happened to be about soccer coaching, a huge part of my life. A big portion of what they do is, as pro coaches, is similar to what I do as a soccer coach and also as like a business person, manage emotions and relationships. Like all the tactical details matter, but at the end of the day, they have a bunch of players who are either happy or unhappy and they have to keep everyone focused and having fun. Certainly plenty of analogy there for managing employees on a farm or in any business. So I may sneak that in at a later date. We'll see. Otherwise, how are the gardens going? How's the harvest going? Let us know. Or better yet, upload a 20-second farm video clip to Dropbox or Drive and share it with Farmer Mike at no-tillgrowers.com. Always so fun to see those. Anyway, it is Friday, which means Feedback Friday, where we explore what you all were saying about this week's topics. On Monday, we talked about watermelons and covering cover crops with compost. At Fester asked a good, simple question. Can you grow just one watermelon plant? And technically, yes, you can, though I would advise growing at least two for insurance sake. Like if you just grow one watermelon plant, a notoriously fickle and difficult crop, you may get 0 plants. 2 gives you at least a better chance of getting some melons. Also, you cannot grow just one seedless watermelon, as I talked about that day, because the pollination from a seeded plant is required to make it seedless. At Don Cook asked, quote, wonder if the same dead tendril indicator for ripeness holds true for all melons like cantaloupe and honeydew. Dead or dying tendril means ripe, end quote. And it can, yes, but with the muskmelons and the like, ripeness is a little more visual and also, sensory. I will do a full show on those at some point, but often they change in color and will readily pop off the vine when ripe. Smell too. You can smell the ripe melon right where the stem sort of meets the melon itself. There are a lot of different varieties of honeydew, cantaloupe, etc. So some have more clear, like visual and aromatic indicators than others. The tendril will be an indicator also for some, but I can't say it will be for all varieties of muskmelon, cantaloupe, etc. You'll just have to grow it and then try some of those other indicators, and at least one of them will work. But yes, more on all that later. At Joan Fisher wrote that day, quote, we are trying some watermelon in our garden this year. Thanks for the tips. Can't wait to make watermelon kombucha and pickled rinds. Glad you had fun at the soccer game Friday, end quote. Indeed, pickled rinds are underrated. Never had one until I moved out here to Kentucky, but always a surprisingly delightful treat. And I like watermelons with or without salt. I don't discriminate. I also like it with mint in my watermelon juice. Like I just blend in the fresh mint. That's the stuff. On Tuesday, we tackled a pervasive myth about water droplets in sunlight, a living mulch question, and the Haas Garden Seeder. At TomDM90 asked, quote, in your opinion, is it still a no-no to overhead water tomatoes? I use soaker hoses, but it seems to take a long time for the ground penetration, end quote. And the issue there with watering tomato plants is not with leaf scorch, but with disease. Wet tomato leaves are a prime target for several foliar diseases, so you do want to water crops like that from the bottom if possible. Now, does it harm them to occasionally get wet? No, not necessarily, but if you need to cool them down, shade cloth is a better option than spraying them. I also called out trickle-down economics as a similar myth. At Corvid Ravenscroft wrote, quote, fun fact, before it was renamed to trickle-down economics, it was referred to as horse and sparrow economics, using the metaphor of a horse engorging itself on feed and sparrows picking through the dung for sustenance, and I think that's a more apt analogy for the way it's deployed in practice, end quote. Not much to add there. The rich get fat, the poor get scraps. Neat system. Clearly it's working. On Wednesday, we did a little compilation episode and talked about how much marketing farms really need, market research for farmers, and accounting and managing farm profits with our buddies Mikey and Kez of Five Tails Farm. Fun little episode. I also started that day off talking about my concerns about restaurants right now. At Rich M wrote, quote, regarding restaurants seeing an increase or decrease in business in this difficult economic time, I heard a poll on NPR yesterday that said the ones that are increasing are the alternative, less expensive options. Rather than go to a dedicated quality burger place, people are stopping by McDonald's or Burger King instead. So the increase is another reflection on economic hard times, end quote. And yeah, this doesn't surprise me. I heard one restaurant recently was in our area was going out of business because the food cost has gone up so much. So like basically as their food costs has gone up, like what they pay for the food, their prices had to go up to kind of match that. And then customers decrease in numbers because they can't afford the new prices. Obviously, economies are going to go up and down. Consumer habits are going to shift. But the challenge with farming is that we're always doing things like 6 months ahead of when we need them. So if some massive change happens in the market, it can be difficult to adapt to that on the fly in this industry, especially on a, like the small cash reserves that we may be lucky to have. And if one of your restaurants goes under, that can be a blow felt for a year or more while you pivot. Also, pivoting is super fun. Love that. Changing up everything on the fly. Good times. As I've said before, this is the importance of having diversity of sales outlets. Diversity. It's a strength in everything from soil to conversation to business management and beyond. Then on Thursday, we talked pre-soaking seeds, advocating for causes, and light frosts on the Mater plants. At Carl Boss wrote, quote, I had pre-soaked some dry beans overnight, like 12 plus hours, and went to plant them after work. And I bet that's what caused my germination to be so poor, question mark. I re-sowed thinking critters were digging them up, but it was most likely that the whole time. Maybe a take 3 is in order if these don't come up now. Thanks for sharing, end quote. Sure, it could be that. It could be the soaking, but germination also requires, adequate moisture in the soil, adequate warmth. Beans like very high temperatures, like mid 80s, up to around 30 degrees Celsius. And the proper planting depth. Pests don't help and they can't be ruled out, but make sure those parameters are also met on top of everything else. At Loke wrote, quote, good to hear about and see that frosted tomato plants bounce back, having very late frosts some years. That'll inevitably be useful advice, end quote. Thanks. And also, if anyone didn't see, anonymous editor Spike also uploaded a little video update at the end of the video to how his tomatoes are doing now. Worth checking that out. That day, I also mentioned my unmitigated excitement for the World Cup, and at Tony B wrote that, quote, FIFA is a criminal organization. I can't even, end quote. And at Gordon Slamsey, one of my favorites to read, wrote, quote, screw FIFA, the company, but I'm going to say dang here. Dang, I'm hyped for these games. I'm going to be talking about it nonstop to Canada flag, Portugal flag, end quote. And absolutely, you are not going to get an argument from me. FIFA is truly the worst. I mean, the ticket prices, just like all the things, VAR. Okay, that's not as bad as the ticket prices and everything else they do, but I don't know. I don't love it. Anyway, life is this weird balance of enjoying things you love, in this case soccer, while dealing with the completely broken, corrupt engine that drives them. Same with, YouTube and tech companies who are all about to have to pay massively for intentionally addicting kids to social media. Like, is it too much to ask to just have fun with a thing that has like decent people behind it? Probably. But, anyway, great stuff as always this week, friends. You all are the best. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, the world's tiniest wood chips find their way to the garden. Or should they? BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Grown By. Grow smarter with Grown By, the farmer-owned cooperative. Grown By is the platform for online sales of everything, custom and traditional CSAs, halves of beef, flower bouquets, wholesale to restaurants, and now Grown By supports in-person sales too. Their new app, Grown By Register, you can supercharge your market and farm stand, finally bringing together your online and offline sales and customer data. Grown By is proud to make local food accessible by processing SNAP benefits online and in person right within the app. Grown By helps you put your best food forward. Schedule a demo at coop.grownby.com/no-till. That's coop.grownby.com/no-till. All right, back to the show. A quick and loving reminder that if you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work. Over at patreon.com/no-till-growers, I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Henry Vasali, who writes, quote, "Hello, Jesse. I have 8 huge bags of sawdust, some is fine cedar. What are the best ways to use it for the garden? Love the show and book. Thank you," end quote. All right, great. Thanks, Henry. So, okay, sawdust is an interesting material for a number of reasons. One, it can be quite abundant in areas around sawmills. Like if you live near a sawmill, you almost certainly can get sawdust by the truckload. However, it is not without its complications in the garden. For one, the term sawdust is right. It's dusty stuff. So using it around vegetable crops is complicated because it can blow around and collect on the leaves or fruit, etc. And it's not super easy to get out of, say, lettuce mix because it'll float when you wash it like the lettuce will. So you have to dunk the lettuce, pull it out without getting more of the sawdust on it. Now, things like tomatoes, it's a bit less likely to get onto or into, but if it's dry and windy, I can't make any, guarantees there. Now, the other reason sawdust is complicated is surface area. The smaller the size of something, the more surface area, which means the more microbes it can attract and the more nitrogen they will use to decompose the material. In other words, tying up the nitrogen that your plants need to grow. So you don't want sawdust on the bed surfaces and definitely not worked into the soil in any large quantities. And yeah, you definitely don't want to work it into the soil. Last weird attribute of sawdust is that it is hydrophobic, making it an incredibly efficient water barrier. This could be good if you wanted to retain water that's already there, say in the pathways, but less good if there is no moisture there already present, or, you head into some sort of deep drought because it takes a lot of rain to penetrate even a small amount of sawdust. Water tends to just kind of bounce or bead off of it. But then also, if you get a lot of rain, wood floats. So like wood chips, a heavy rain can wash them out of the pathways or onto the beds or whatever. So all that said, how to use this lovely little carbonaceous resource? Well, it makes a great covering for wet and stinky nitrogenous material, manures, kitchen scraps, etc. So you just sprinkle enough over top of that until you can't smell it anymore, and bingo, that's a great use of it. In fact, we used to use sawdust for our humanure setup when we lived off-grid for nearly 6 years. It is super excellent in a bucket setup, and maybe we're due for a humanure segment at some point. For me, that's the place where it makes the most sense. Covering wet materials and reducing odors. Obviously, that does not have to be human manure. It can just as well be kitchen scraps or livestock manure or whatever, like I said. But incorporating sawdust through the compost is a slower incorporation of a really nice little carbon source into the garden that runs fewer risks of getting on everything and washing out. You could also mix it in with a few other materials like leaves to create a really firm weed barrier. Like you just take the leaves and you mix in the sawdust and it kind of all sticks together. And that could be great for mulching around like, say, trees or something. And maybe you could use it if you had it in severe abundance around things like trees, as long as it's, as long as there's a decent amount of moisture there already, and maybe leave a little gap around the tree itself so that you can put drip tape or whatever you need in drier areas. But I just in general like the compost approach because once it is in compost form, it can slowly be spread throughout the farm without risks of dusty veggies. Though, of course, using it with human manure, it's a little bit more complicated. You can't just like throw human manure compost on the garden, especially if you're selling the food. Maybe more on all that another time because it's definitely a favorite topic of mine. Anyhow, how do you all use sawdust? Let us know. And otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I put on my locksmith hat and hand you the key to farm success. Also going to clearly wear my like corny dad joke bow tie. I feel like they match, but I'm a dad. I don't know. Anyway, be right back. What are we doing? Just hanging out on the shade cloth? Okay.
A long engagement and a quick goodbye. She got out, I didn't cry. 2 LA ghosts and a U-Haul ride. Now we're broken on the other side. On the other side. Goodbye, LA. Feel more alive.
All right, so around this time every year, one of our old videos blows up on YouTube and gets a big new run of interest. It's called How to Start a Small Farm, a Step-by-Step Guide. So obviously that makes sense. People are probably out gardening and think, I wonder how I could do this professionally. Or maybe they're, stuck inside their office job looking out, the window at the spring weather thinking, what sorts of jobs can one do outside? This video, however, is not always what I think people expect, but I do think it's what people need to hear. And I will link that video in the show notes. I suspect people want to hear step 1, go buy land. Step 2, open up your garden space. Step 3, plant. Step 4, show up to the farmer's market and rock and roll. But this video that at this point has been viewed over 2.5 million times really says none of those things. I mean, not really. Indeed, as your resident farm nerd here, it starts with something I still firmly stand by. I would not suggest you ever start with buying farmland, and definitely not jump right into growing food. If you want to start a farm right, it definitely does not start with a farm. In the video, I lay out the steps in this order. 1, don't buy land. 2, make a family budget. 3, get some growing experience. 4, make a business plan and farm budget. 5, get some dang capital. 6, consider farm collaborations. And then finally, 7, find some land on which to grow. I'm not going to go into those in depth here. I mean, I did a whole video on it, a reasonably good job, I think. But I think about this video often because it's everything I wish I'd heard when I was just starting out, and not maybe just heard, because I'm sure people did say it to me, but heard and believed and digested. It's not that no one told me that farming was a business or that the business side wasn't important. It was that I just didn't really care that much when I was starting out. I couldn't see past the romanticism, the excitement, the pride I would feel being a farmer and a steward of the natural world and all those good things. The joy I would take from working outside. It never occurred to me that the things that were going to make literally any of those idealisms possible was the business side, the practical side, the pragmatism. I've said it before, but whatever reason you have for getting into farming, it's paying attention to the financial side that will enable it to happen. Do I wish it wasn't that way? Probably every single day. However, there is no practical path to returning to the more large-scale hunter-gatherer shared resource society I wish existed. But the next best thing is turning those ideas and dreams into businesses. So when I think about this question of how to start a farm, just as it was when I made that video, it has very little to do with farming. It has everything to do with creating a financially sustainable business, because at its core, farming is just a business. But I think all of us have spent much of our lives dreaming of doing the thing that we love the most, be it sports or dance or art or hiking or gardening or whatever for a living. And farming is that opportunity to feed people, grow delicious food, protect and improve the environment, work outside, enjoy what you do, and do it for a living. I don't think starting a farm is for everyone, but I do think starting a farm business the right way, the business way, is for anyone who wants to do what they love and get paid for it. I also know that most people are like I was. When we post any sort of farm video on business, like we did, for like Wednesday's episode, crickets. It's always going to perform worse than anything else we post, even if it's the most important thing people need to hear. People don't want to hear it. People, don't want to hear the most important key to making their, farm dreams happen is treating it like a business. Anyway, was that a complete thought? You be the judge. Otherwise, Friday, we're done here. Don't forget, No Till Growers is a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That is an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. I can't emphasize it enough. In the summer, we're getting the most views and we have the least interest in advertising, which has never really made sense to me. But if you want to get in on the advertising, July and August are hot tickets. Anyway, big thank you to Michelle. Big thank you to the No Till Growers Board of Directors. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support this work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of June, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Shay Sorley, Shane Cooming, Hannah, and Dwight Yoder. So, we'll finish out our story of our young tribeswomen who have just freed the rest of their tribe from their kidnappers and decided they are going to free all the people in the fields too, who are, frustratingly for the tribe, destroying a good patch of forage ground. And so, two young tribespeople, sneaking up on someone is one thing, but when you have like 100 or more tribespeople all using their skills and knowledge of the land to take down their captors, it gets epic. They know every inch of the land, where the high parts are, the shrubbery they can hide behind, and slowly, one by one, they pick off each and every one of the guards and free the captives. Within an hour, all the captives are freed, and the nearby camp is none the wiser. So they head down to the village. They take care of business there, and before heading back home to their own camp, they look out over the land, now barren of life as far as the eye can see, and they take a few minutes to begin to resow the land to all the wild seeds they can find, hoping they can get it returned to the abundance it was before. Anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. You all have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.